This is a Meyer lemon. It's my favorite houseplant. When I bought this about 5 years ago at Home Depot, I didn't expect much, but I was really pleased to see it produce fragrant white flowers, and then it actually produced 5 real lemons. And I'm actually able to make marmalade. Isn't that cool? So, what do houseplants have to do with gardening? A plant is a plant is a plant, and they all have the same basic needs: water, air, light, nutrients, and good soil. And of course, some TLC. Plants all have the same basic needs, but there's a huge difference between outside plants and house plants. House plants usually originate in warm places. This is a holiday cactus, and it originates in warm tropical jungles. It would never be able to survive a PEI winter outside. This is actually a great-granddaughter of the original plant I bought, and now we've started the new generation. Now let's talk about watering. Plants are 90% water. Water keeps the tissues firm and the plant healthy. When a plant has not enough water, the tissues get soft and the plant starts to droop. So in the conditions that we have in our houses during the winter, where it's warm and the air is dry, plants need extra water in order to survive. They are putting out more and more water through their leaves, and that water needs to be replenished. So when you water, pick a watering can with a nice long spout so that you can aim it on towards the surface of the soil and not the leaves. Because when you put water on the leaves, you can invite fungus diseases, and sometimes it even leaves white marks on the leaves. Okay. Houseplants grow in small pots with pretty limited soil, and so they need extra nutrients in order to support their growth. The 3 most important nutrients that plants need are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it's a good idea to fertilize your plants starting in spring, over the summer and the fall. In the fall, you can stop fertilizing and let your plants rest over the winter. So the best fertilizer I find, the easiest to use, is a liquid plant food like this. If you have plants with no flowers, go for a balanced fertilizer. 10-10-10 is a great choice. This one happens to be 10-15-10. That middle number, which is phosphorus, is great to encourage the flowering and fruiting of plants. So anything that produces flowers, choose a high middle number. A natural option for fertilizing your plants is when you cook your vegetables, either fresh or frozen, save the cooking water. Make sure it doesn't have any salt in it, because salt is toxic to plants. Let it cool off and check it out. The water is the same color as the vegetables that you're cooking. That means there's lots of nutrients in that water that are dissolved in there. So go ahead and use this on your plants, and they'll really perk up. I have a lot of pots. There's a reason for that. I just can't throw anything away. But really, it's really handy to have a lot of different sizes of pots, so that when your house plants get too big, you can take them out of the pot and divide them, or give them a larger size pot. So usually when you transplant, you need something with holes in the bottom. Here I found a pot with no holes, so we're going to look for something else. Let's say we'll choose this one here. So this one has holes in the bottom, and that's really important when transplanting your plants, because you don't want to drown the roots. You want water to be able to flow through the soil and out to keep it well drained. So it's always nice to have a decorative pot. This isn't particularly pretty. So there's lots of decorative pots around in many different styles and shapes and materials. You can get them in ceramic, in metal, in wood. So what you would do is take your plain old pot with your plant in it, put it inside a decorative pot, and you're ready to put it in your house, display it wherever you want. So let's talk about soil. Houseplants should never ever be repotted using outside garden soil. That kind of soil is too heavy, and you could be bringing in all kinds of critters and diseases from outside that you do not want on your houseplants. A much better choice is to get a professional growing mix, like this one here. I buy mine in a big bale from Vessi Seeds or from Kent Building Supplies or from Earthform in Stratford. This big bale makes me feel rich because I use it for transplanting my houseplants. I use it for containers outside. I use it for transplanting my tomatoes before I plant them in the ground. I use it for everything. So this soil isn't really soil at all. It's a mixture of peat moss, vermiculite, perlite, and a wetting agent to help it moisten. So this stuff is great. There's no weed seeds in it. There's no diseases in it. It's the proper thing to use for your houseplants. So now I'm going to get my soil ready for transplanting. I'm going to put a bunch of this very dry soil into a bucket. And then I'm going to pour a whole lot of water into this very dry soil. It takes quite a bit of water to get this soil moist. I'm breaking up the lumps, and now we're ready to go. If you feel it, it should have the consistency of a wet sponge. You don't want to plant really dry soil because it will never get wet if you try to do that when it's already planted up, and you'll probably drown the roots. So here's the succulent I have decided to repot. You can see that there's even a flower stalk coming right here. Oftentimes when a plant is stressed, that's when it sends out a flower because it feels like it's going to die and it needs to reproduce itself first. So this plant has a whole lot of little tiny offsets or babies in it. So it really doesn't have enough space in this pot anymore. So the first thing I'm going to do is just give it a squeeze. And then it usually just pops right out. Oh, see here? There's another reason why you should be transplanting. One of the roots has actually come right through the bottom of the pot. This is the moment of truth. I'm going to pull it out. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Check out all the roots. This plant is mostly roots. You can hardly see any soil at all. So with the roots being so tangled up and these new plants being very tight up against the mother plant, I'm trying to decide whether I should separate these new ones or leave them all together. I think I'm going to take a risk and try to separate them out. So I am just very gently tugging them apart, trying not to break the roots, trying to more like untangle them. And keep going on. Oh, I hear a snap. There we go. There's a new plant. There's the old one. I think I'm going to leave these babies right where they are because I don't want to damage the mother plant. This is the best kind of decorative pot to use to transplant. It's a tough material. It's made out of ceramic. It has its own saucer attached, and it's got a drainage hole, which is really important so that you don't drown out your plant roots. So I'm going to use that one for this plant. So I'm going to put a little bit of soil in the bottom. Press down. I'm going to take my plant, try to get all the roots in, tuck them in, and then as I hold it up, pack the soil in, going around and around the plant so that you're packing it in evenly. You're trying to keep the plant in the center of the pot, which I find hard sometimes. And you just keep kind of going around, packing the soil in. bush. Standing up nicely. And we're just going to keep filling it up with this fresh soil. Pushing it down each time. We don't want to have any air pockets in the soil because that'll settle over time and there'll be almost no soil left in the pot. It takes a surprising amount of soil to fill it up, even a small pot like this. Just a titch more at the back. There. Give it a good watering. And we're done. Houseplants add a lot of charm and beauty to a room. They add oxygen to the air and moisture too. They also absorb a lot of harmful chemicals like benzene and formaldehyde. They just need a little care and they'll pay you back with years of enjoyment. Happy growing!